not sure what happened to that countdown, but nevertheless, we are live, and I am John Ryan, of course. This is Manny's Pub Sports Betting Show. We're an Irish pub, so it's Friday afternoon, and we should be taking part in a little refreshment. But I have two very special guests, and I'm honored to have them both on at the same time. I have Jordan Capozzi. He is the executive producer of Cuse Sports Talk at ESPN Radio Syracuse. And you may also recognize that name because I am fortunate enough to be on that show every Friday at 1:30. They're on vacation today, and that's why Jordan was nice enough to come on the show today. So welcome to the show, Jordan.
Happy and then we have here, John. I got to steal back 10 seconds from that countdown, though, to plug in my charger. So I get those 10 seconds.
Go ahead. And we have Jim Coventry, a new buddy of mine from rotowire.com. We've been, I've been using their resources for as long as they've been on the net. And I believe the company goes all the way back to the 70s, Jim, or further.
You know what? There may have been other configurations, but the four guys who founded it are roughly 50. So I think we go back maybe 28 years. So maybe in the 90s. Yeah.
So, guys, you definitely want to know his bio here. He's NFL fantasy football analyst for RotoWire and host on Sirius XM on the weekends. He's been covering fantasy football for 16 years and have won a national contest championship and many top 50 finishes. This sounds like a guy, Jordan, that we could make a boatload of cash with if we just listen. But, I've been told I have a gift to gab, and in order to learn, you must keep your mouth shut. But I'm going to start off the show here with a little Major League Baseball. And yesterday, if you're watching this show and you saw my little 2-minute video, I have to admit, it took a little guts to put the video out because of who it was, because I was thinking, oh, my God, if they lose 21-3, I mean, they're going to think this guy knows nothing. And then I thought, you know what? This is just one game among a season of plays, and it's part of the professional process that we go through each and every day. It doesn't matter if the team stinks or if they're the Los Angeles Dodgers. If there's an opportunity that's solid, you do it. And then, that's it. You're done with that day. Whatever happens, happens, and you move on to the next day. Not letting the wins or the losses of the previous day affect your objectivity. So I had the Washington Nationals yesterday, and I laughed because I saw the ending. I just was like, oh my goodness gracious, this is unbelievable. But if you do that consistently with these dogs, for example, just this year alone, if you bet 250 and higher underdogs Major League Baseball, you won 35% of them, which sounds god awful. But you've averaged a 290 wager, and therefore you got a 35% ROI, which the S&P 500 can't even match. So with that said, I just wanted to present this real quick for tonight's action, and I believe that is it. So yesterday's game was the dog had to be 200 and higher. The two previous games, they left 10 or more men on base, and that's a team stat, not individual player stat. Team left on base. This is a little variation, so we're going to bet on dogs of 250 or more. Dog is 250 or greater again, which they are, and they won their previous game as that big-time dog. 10-19, 35% winner. Sounds awful. 290 wager again here. 29% ROI last 20 seasons, and the over is 21-8. So with some pizza money, I think it makes total sense to, pizza money is $20 if you bet $100 a game to bet the Washington Nationals on the money line and the over. Am I nuts? Let's start with Jordan, see what he has to say here, whether I'm completely lunatic going after it 2 days in a row.
I mean, it worked yesterday, so even if it loses today, that's still up, and up is up. I may be biased, right? We've talked about how I work at ESPN Syracuse with Paulie, who's a big Padres fan. So I'll be honest, I fall victim to a little, let's text Paulie, get a little same game parlay going. And, Yesterday, it happened to be on the Padres. You saved me, so thank you. I guess it's not technically a hedge, but it worked as a hedge, and I was still up. I don't know if lightning's going to strike twice, man, but you have to take it. Like you say, if you're doing this for one bet at a time, you're going to come up looking pretty silly. You got to trust it all season long. What, you had these hitting, it was about 100% ROI before the pick yesterday. So I don't know how you don't take it again.
Yeah.
You got to take it again. Even if it loses, it's still a good pick.
Yeah, and you expect them to lose. That's what is so shocking, and that's what makes this fun. Diverse a little bit here. College football. I did this query this morning because this is one of my favorite bets to talk about, and we can talk about it next week too. College football dogs of 17.5 points. Since 1989, 310 of them have won the game outright. For 12 years in a row with my premium clients, I've had at least one of those dogs win outright. You never know when it's going to happen, obviously. And I'm not into hype and telling people that, oh, this might be it. This might be the one. Because you know what people do? They'll double their bet or triple their bet and, not tell the girlfriend or the wife, and then they lose. And then, we can't even pay for the grocery bill today. But seriously, the last 3 years, if we take out COVID season, 67% of those 67 games of the 310 occurred in those 3 seasons. There was more than 20 in each given year over the last 4 years, and strike out COVID because there was only 7 in COVID, but still it happened. Prior to that, there wasn't ever more than 10. So it will happen again, and it happens more so in the SEC than any other conference. So Alabama, beware. Back to Major League Baseball. I told you guys I run all over the place with this thing. The Washington Nationals said, anytime the rest of the year, let's see how this does. We'll keep track of dogs of 250 and higher, just blindly betting them. And I think you'll see that you're not going to lose a lot. You might lose 5 in a row, and then you win 2 in a row, and all of a sudden you're even. And that's the fun part of it. Jim, welcome to the show. And what do you think of this opportunity on the Washington Nationals? I can't even believe I said that I'm taking real money and putting it behind Washington.
So full disclosure, when it comes to baseball picks, I listen to what you say. I am so dialed in as a football guy because I am a fantasy football analyst. And if I don't give my subscribers the absolute best NFL, then I'm shortchanging them. So I have tunnel vision. I can only listen to your advice on baseball. I can't offer any analysis or support other than I know you know your stuff.
That's a smart man, Jordan, isn't it?
That's what he's talking about. John, are we going to keep betting the Nationals later in the season? Because I know you're looking at the NL East. You look at the end of the season, you're going to have some series against the Mets. You're going to have other good teams in there. Yep, Phillies. And I think the Phillies might have the toughest schedule of those 3 teams coming down the stretch. I know you like them, but is that Nationals pick? Is that riding all the way till then, like late September?
It would apply.
Okay.
It would apply.
I can go in and sweating a lot this fall.
I'll go in and look at that because that's interesting because these teams that in September, those last, say, 20 games, they really truly have nothing to play for. Whereas the favorite of minus 400 has everything to play for. So you might have a good point there that it actually goes away, which would make the overall results even better for these dogs if you maybe we play them between May 1st and the end of September.
I like it. You just got to hope some of those guys who they're holding back on their service time, they're not like, okay, we'll bring you up, slugger. And then he goes Randy Arozarena on them. So it could happen, but I like it so far. It's a good system so far.
Before we get to the football, just real quick, another 2 topics. The first one is the New York Yankees. So I've been fading them. I wouldn't say religiously, but pretty often. I can't remember the last time I bet on the Yankees. The models have not even come close to giving me a play on the Yankees. I thought the one angle I presented on a show on July 1st was teams that have outscored their opponents by 150 or more runs to this point. means that they have dominated and steamrolled everybody because it doesn't happen that often. You get over 100 for the whole season, you might have 4 or 5 teams like we do this year. Of course, the Dodgers have outscored everybody by 200, was it 70, which is insane. The Yankees were at 150 something at that time, and I said this is the time to fade them. It's the regression. We see it in the NFL, we see it in every single sport. And boy, did the Yankees regress. They have the worst record in baseball over the last 17 games. They are 24th in Major League Baseball since July 1. When do I stop fading them? That's my question to you, Jim. When do I stop fading them? I know you're not going to give much advice here, but you can draw upon your NFL experience.
Don't do it. Don't stop.
I agree. Until proven wrong. I mean, it's like the Washington Nationals.
You have to ride it.
I think they're going to win the division, but I mean, anything is possible right now the way they're playing it. The only win they have is an event that took place 15 other times in Major League Baseball history, is what my database told me. And that was Josh Donaldson's grand slam walk-off after they trailed 4-0, after they trailed 4-2 after the sixth. I mean, their bullpen is my answer. Their bullpen is just god-awful. But, Jordan, what do you think is the problem, and will they get it fixed?
I mean, I don't know if I see them getting it fixed. As we get down to the end in the AL East, they're all going to be chasing, obviously, the division, but the extra wild card spot too. So it's going to stay tight. What I'm noticing and what I really like, I know we don't think the Yankees are going to drop that lead. 10 games in like 45. Here's what I found interesting. They're going to be playing a lot of other AL East teams, the Blue Jays, the Yankees. They are respectively the Rays as well. I don't think they're as sexy as the Blue Jays, but you got to respect them. The Yankees are only 7-6 against Boston. The Rays and the Blue Jays, they kind of take care of the Red Sox just fine. If the Yankees are splitting games with Boston in September, that's going to be an issue because we see the Blue Jays, they have 2 series against them. Blue Jays could catch up on 5 or 6 games. What I'm scared of is the Blue Jays, they're going to be playing the Orioles a lot. And as we kind of talked about before the show, they're still surprising everybody by winning. That's where I think the Blue Jays stumble. But as for the Yankees, I mean, their bullpen stinks, as you said, and like they haven't been able to score lately either. I mean, we were real close to another Yankees fans blowing up on Twitter. Chapman needs to go. What are we doing? And luckily, Donaldson saved him, a guy who he's been getting a lot of flack this season too. Just goes to show you never know who's going to be the hero. But I don't think the Yankees will do much better. I think it all depends on, do the Blue Jays beat the Orioles in those series, and can the Yankees play a little better against Boston? Like, I'm a Sox fan. That team is horrid. Yankees 7-6 against them. That's bad. That's bad.
It's certainly not good. And that is for sure.
I'm fading them, man. I don't care who they're playing. I'm fading them. Got the Mets coming up. The Mets are going to have DeGrom and Scherzer. Yankees might score like 3 runs in those 2 games combined. Yeah, man. Yankees aren't fixing it for a little bit.
The Braves are scary. The simple reason you had Max Scherzer give up 4 earned runs the other night to them. First time in 32 starts that he's given up more than 3 earned runs. I mean, think about that stat. Granted, it was only 4, but still, they're hitting opposite field, and that uppercut swing and a stupid launch angle. I think that's one of the worst things I've seen in baseball, and I've coached a lot of baseball in my life. I mean, the launch angle is just ridiculously dumb. I mean, a home run, and the way I taught it to my teams, is a line drive that just happens to get enough backspin on it that it goes over the fence. But now they're swinging at, some of these guys are swinging at like a 45-degree angle. And they wonder why the strikeouts are up.
Everyone wants to be David Ortiz. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everybody wants to be. They won't be. But I do hope, speaking of good swings, Albert Pujols still has that same classic swing. It's basically a Charlie Lau Jr. swing. Charlie Lau's dad was the one that kind of, taught that way of swinging. You keep the bat through the strike zone longer. You get fooled by a changeup, you can still foul it off. With this launch angle, you're either right and you foul it off. You're either right and hit a line drive, or you hit a home run. Anything else is a swing and a miss. All right, let's move on to something more entertaining like NFL. So let's start with Jim here with fantasy, because I feel like when I've done fantasy and at the workplace, and believe it or not, I have won a couple.
Oh, I believe
But
it.
it's more luck. It's more luck, and it's my team stays healthier than everybody else. The best move I ever made in my life, Jim, and Jordan, you'll like this one. It was the year that Odell Beckham made his first start. I, honest to God, knew one thing about him, that he was from LSU.
Yes.
But I monitored snap counts and it was going up. So in the game against the Eagles, the Giants' Victor Cruz got injured. On the waiver wire the previous week, I picked up Odell Beckham just to pick him up. And then I had that guy, Benjamin, from Carolina, who I really didn't know anything about, another rookie, right? And I ran away with it. So I don't consider that skill or expertise or intelligence. I think that's just like getting extraordinarily lucky. But I really want to know what you would recommend in our draft. Like my expertise, like you said with baseball, Jim, I'm going to do the same thing in return with fantasy, because I'm starting to think I'm better off just doing auto draft. And then
You don't
dealing
want to
with
do
it.
that. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, so totally understand what you're saying. Makes sense. The leagues I play in are mostly either industry leagues with people that do this for a living, and then some national contest things. So the pool I'm in, yes, there's an element of luck that gets involved in it, but most of all, we have to identify players who ahead of the curve, not too soon before the curve, but we got to catch them at just the right time. We have to get players at value. We have to take the layups when they're there, but we have to selectively swing for the fence, 45-degree angle, only at certain times. So I could talk about players as we have questions for me, but there are strategies to help you master the fantasy football draft.
Well, I guess, from a beginner standpoint, you can see all the stuff that you have is awesome on rotowire.com, ranks all the players. How closely should they follow those rankings? When do you, if the third best wide receiver is open for you and you're in a 12-team snake draft and it's your turn to pick, when is it that you go, you know what, I like that guy that's in the sixth spot better?
Yes. So we have to understand positional scarcity in the entirety of the draft and typically go with a plan that maximizes the pockets in which you'll get positional scarcity to flip on your side. So here's my basic strategy this year based on the pool of players and the average standard draft. Most leagues start one quarterback. Some start two, but most start one. I am telling people who listen to me to wait until 6 quarterbacks are drafted and off the board before you begin to hunt for one. The reason being, I believe there's a pocket of 4 quarterbacks who will be available after the top 6, who will score reasonably close to those top 6 with the potential to reach them if things shake right. So I think while you're letting those quarterbacks fall, you can snap up running backs and receivers. And this year, the strategy, it ends up being the same, but not for the same reason. At tight end, once I see 5 of them go off the board, now I begin to look, and I have the 4 tight ends after that, and I don't mind which I get. Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Zach Ertz, and even later, Cole Kmet. So I have a large window of about 3 to 4 rounds. Once those first 5 go off the board, I want to watch the board. I want to be prepared to take any of those. I don't want to miss out on them, just like I don't want to miss out outside my top 10 quarterbacks. But those 2 choices in drafts allow you to be okay at those core positions. But I'm telling you, you need to come out of the first 5 or 6 rounds with running backs and receivers. Some people like tight ends early. I think your roster construct is not very good when you do that.
And that makes sense to me. That makes total sense to me, because the players that get hurt the most, there's obviously more wide receivers on the field than tight ends. And there's more running backs on the field than tight ends. That makes total sense to me. Now, in your scenario with the tight end, you said once 5 go, then you're interested in drafting. What if those four guys that you have high on your radar get taken four in a row? So you don't have five tight ends gone yet. Is there any time like that where you would say, okay, I better grab a guy now?
So basically, the way they're set up on my draft board, so the four that I have, TJ Hockenson a normal draft will normally go near the end of the 5th round. Dallas Goedert will normally go in the 6th round. So will Dalton Schultz. They'll both go in. But then Cole Kmet goes in the 8th or the 9th round. So if I see those three go quickly in succession, my fallback plan immediately becomes Kmet. So he will be there. Now, if I don't get any of them, if in the rare situation, none of the four end up on my team, now my approach changes. I am going to wait till the double-digit rounds. I am going to find 2 tight ends and hope that one of them hits. My targets in that range, Hunter Henry, developed a very nice rapport at Mac Jones this year. I don't think he really knew what he had in Hunter Henry. I believe this year that expands quite a bit. And then even Austin Hooper. We think of Austin Hooper as a player who's not very productive for fantasy. We have to remember, when he had a good situation a few years back in Atlanta, he was a top 5 tight end. What happened was he went to Cleveland. They used a 3 tight end rotation. They block a lot. Hooper was not a featured receiver. Now he goes to Tennessee. We think in Tennessee, we know they're going to run heavy, but they're going to have to throw enough. And Ryan Tannehill will like the middle of the field. Austin Hooper will be a reliable target for him. So I think those, if you can't get tight ends in your target range, you take a pair of them later, and one of them has a good chance of hitting.
Oh, I love it, Jim. This stuff is now I know I actually am armed and dangerous. I'll actually be able to know what I'm doing with the draft. I honestly, I have panicked. Like when my guys go away, and I go, oh my God, I gotta pick somebody up. Yeah, I can't have a roster with a tight end that I picked in the 14th round. But you can. Now, one last question here, and the rookie running back for the Houston Texans. I'm hearing more and more that he's going to be the starting running back on a bad team. I often think of Carter Williams of the Sixers, who won Rookie of the Year on a bad team.
Cuse.
So I have suggested I've bet pizza money on this kid to be Rookie of the Year. When would you be interested in, or would you be interested at all in having him on your team? And where would you find him attractive?
So, yes, I do hear the buzz on Dameon Pierce as well. Now, when I saw his athletic measurables coming out, they're not remarkable. He has looked good in training camp, so there's something for that. Here's my concern. We know the Texans have a very bad defense. Well, that means they're going to trail most weeks, right? So what do coaches want out of their running back when they're trailing? They want 2 things. Yes, catch the ball. What's the most important thing in regards to your quarterback that they have to do? Go ahead.
Got to block, baby. Got to pass protect.
Yes. And with rookies, that is not always, but frequently a sticking point. We know Rex Burkhead, right? Well, he's older, but he knows how to pass protect. He knows how to catch the ball. Marlon Mack apparently is now fully recovered from his ACL, not his Achilles injury, excuse me. He was a good runner, a good receiver in 2018 and 2019 with the Colts, and he could pass protect. My concern with Dameon Pierce is game scripts are going to frequently be poor. So he may get carries early in the game, but if he gets game scripted out in 10, 11, 12 games, that's problematic. I get the intrigue, but I really wonder who's going to be in on those plentiful passing downs.
That's a great point.
Do you mind, while I have Jim, we talked a lot of running backs. Could I throw a few running back names out that I've been hearing stuff about and just get your take?
Sure.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to mispronounce the name to start. I've got a friend, fantasy expert, gambling, just huge on it. I'm going to mess up the name, but he's telling me that Pacheco, he'll be the Chiefs' #1 running back at some point this season. He's been killing it at camp. How early would you go for a guy like that?
Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is there are camp darlings. Pacheco's like 215 pounds, good size, runs like a 4.3, blistering speed. And people took an Andy Reid quote and they went sailing with it. The quote said he will run hard. But the rest of the quote that didn't get reported anywhere was he has to learn to run at more than one speed in the NFL. He needs to learn to run the play as blocked. There will be a place for Pacheco, but I think it's going to be change of pace at most. Look, there are nuances to the running game. And from what I heard, at a time he got benched at Rutgers. That concerns me. He's fast. Yes. He's athletically gifted. Yes. We saw Antonio Gibson, who's now like in the doghouse in Washington.
He's another name.
Yes, because he is not adjusting or able to learn the nuance of the game. Maybe he is a receiver. So Pacheco, look, I see the potential. But I believe, even though Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been a disappointment, I believe they can run their offense on schedule more likely. So I think Pacheco is change of pace. He's going to be overdrafted. People are moving his ADP up. He's going in the 11th round of drafts now. I don't think he's going to see regular work. Andy Reid, like I said, that quote was huge. But it was one of those things that if you follow, you realize the nuances of the game are critical.
Okay. And since you mentioned Gibson, I've been seeing everything from you've seen the reports. He's like on the punt team right now. But now it's getting so crazy that I'm seeing people saying his stock has dropped so much. You might want to take him a little earlier now. Is Gibson a guy that we can rely on when those, McCaffreys, Taylors, when they're all off the board?
See, the problem is in a 12-team league, 24 starting running backs, and people are still drafting him as if he's in that mix, and he may be. Now, he would need to fall to the 7th round outside of the top 24 backs to realize potential upside. And the problem is, see, last year, it looked like J.D. McKissic was going to walk. Buffalo had reported that they had brought him in. They wanted a receiving back. And then Washington apparently got in McKissic's ear, and then they changed course, and he came back. So he continues to be their passing down back. Gibson is an amazing receiver, but somehow they trust McKissic more in that role. Gibson fumbled a league-high number of times at running back last year. Big issues with the team. They bring in Brian Robinson. The first preseason game, what does Gibson do in the first couple plays? Fumbles.
Yeah.
Therefore, he got punished. Now, Brian Robinson played at a great college program. We really don't know how good you are when you play at those great college programs because you have an inherent advantage with offensive line. But that said, he's a sledgehammer back. If you fumble near the goal line, you're probably not going to get the ball at the goal line. So I think Brian Robinson gets goal line work. McKissic gets passing down work. What does that leave for Gibson?
Nothing.
No. Now, if you're going to gamble on Gibson, we know he has elite physical skills. If he somehow regains the team's trust, can't be taken off the field, that world exists. But it seems like he's dug a pretty big hole with the coaching staff right now.
Okay. You might. I got one more question, John, and we'll get off there. But who's your number one this year? Because McCaffrey's hopefully coming back. Team stinks. He'll get a lot of usage. Derrick Henry, he's always up there. I'm hearing the Colts want Taylor to be taking less snaps. Hines is going to come back. I'm sure steal some receptions. A lot of those guys who were really good last year, you're hearing out of camp we need to reduce their snap count. Who's your number one? Maybe your 1, 2, 3.
All right, so I do have to keep Jonathan Taylor at number one. Look, he is so explosive. They can say they want to take him off the field, but when they're looking to win games, this is a team that probably leads in the majority of games. You're not going to have Nyheim Hines grind the clock out, right? So I think Taylor, yes, he could see a reduced workload, but maybe that's a fresher Jonathan Taylor. I still think his floor and his ceiling are elite, and younger backs where he's still very young, freak injuries aside, they tend to get hurt less. We saw McCaffrey, 16 straight games, first 3 years, and then the wheels started to fall off. So I'm keeping him. My number 2 is against the grain. Most people won't like this. I'll explain why. I have Dalvin Cook as my number 2.
Okay.
I'll explain why, because this is
legit.
important. With me, don't listen to the what. Listen to the why and make your decision, right? So Dalvin Cook was running what we call an inside zone system under the Mike Zimmer regime. Now, there are 2 things. The opposition knew they were run heavy, so they always had extra linebackers on the field. B, it was inside zone, so they knew they could compress their defense. Dalvin Cook would take a lot of kill shots from inside linebackers. Now, Kevin O'Connell comes in to take over. A, they're going to run a lot of 3 receiver sets, which will automatically dictate 1 less linebacker on the field. Now, instead of the inside zone, this system is outside zone. Get him to the edge. Instead of getting hit by inside linebackers, it'll be a combination of outside linebackers, safeties, and cornerbacks. He'll also have the ability to get out of bounds and miss some of those big hits when he wants to. Last thing, there's always a robust screen game attached to that Ram-style offense. Remember when Todd Gurley was catching a bunch of passes. Dalvin Cook is an excellent receiver. He just was not schemed well. So I think between the likelihood of limited injury, getting him in space, using his talents, I love Dalvin Cook this year.
And you're taking Madison in like the 12th round too, right?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Alexander Madison, in my opinion, excellent inside zone runner. Terrible outside zone runner. When we watch him play, whenever he'd get to the outside, short yardage, when he'd go out, he would always get stopped for a loss or no yards. I think that he will not be the guy. It could be Tyler Chandler. They're going to be another back, I think. I don't think Alexander Madison is a system scheme fit for the new offense.
Well, that's huge.
That's pretty cool stuff, man. I'm impressed. I have one quick question for you. And we've talked about this on the Syracuse ESPN show. Jalen Hurts, but let me keep going. So I have some friends in the Philadelphia area, and they say he can't throw the long ball. Okay, so I did some analytical research, and lo and behold, you guys probably know this. Percentage of balls being thrown 20 yards plus has gone down in each of the last 3 seasons rather precipitously. And then I thought, well, why? Well, my reason, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, is that defenses have become so sophisticated now that you can put 7, 8 guys in the box. And even a guy with the experience of Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, they never know which 4 are coming. The Patriots are still the only NFL team to rush 3 on every play. So that means there's 8 guys in coverage. So it's more of a defense. They're not conceding the shorter passes. It's all about convergence to the receiver that the ball is going to, so that the yards after catch is minimized. So then I started thinking, you know what? Philly has a lot of weapons. They really do have a lot of weapons. And why not bet Jalen Hurts to win the MVP award at 40-1? But seriously, I did do that with pizza money just because MGM, if they go 5-0 out of the gate, that'll be down to like 18-1 or something. I'll take the offer to buy it back. So I'm not saying that he's going to do that. But the Eagles in general, I think, are a team that's on my radar to exceed the wins total. And whenever that Philly fan base doesn't give their teams a chance, whether it's the Sixers, the Flyers, the Eagles, or the Phillies, you want to bet on them. You want to find something to take advantage of. But where would you put Jalen Hurts in your rankings as a quarterback? Because I'm going to put him on my team. I don't think I have to make him a number 1 early on, but I think I can probably wait till like the 8th round maybe. But tell me more. And I'm going to bring in our good friend Tony Finn here, who has stopped by from Waiter Talk. You guys get to meet him. Mr. Finn. Mr. Finn is one of my favorite guys in all the world. And he sits in this casino that has no people in it.
Yeah, that's speaks volumes to how many friends I have, right?
Well, you have 2 new ones right here. They don't know who you are. They're going to like you.
I already like them. They're on the show with you,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
and I apologize.
They're well groomed.
They are? Well,
yeah.
I better leave because I'm certainly not.
Well, Jim Coventry is right to your left. He's with RotoWire. He's their NFL guru. And then Jordan Capozzi is the executive producer of the ESPN Syracuse Cuse Sports Talk Show.
Very good. So, I have a friend who's an old Syracuse, does a lot of radio, and he still, a show doesn't go by that he doesn't bring up the Cuse.
Oh, you've got to. You've got to. No. Fagans, give Jim Boeheim his wins back. Dinosaur barbecue. It snows all the time.
And he's doing radio in Kansas City, so he's right next to, the spirit of Wilt Chamberlain and that lot. So
As long as he remembers.
Pretty good company. Syracuse
Dinosaur Barbecue is the one. He can't go to Kansas City and change up on us. That's what matters.
Well, he did a show here out of Vegas for a long time, and then he wanted to get back to Kansas City, and I remember he asked me, Tony, could you make a pitch to the guys? And I said, well, certainly, I'll lie to them for you.
That's what friends are for.
Yeah.
Tony, we're talking about the Eagles. And I asked, Jim is an expert in fantasy. You'll have to listen to the show and what he said, because he had a wealth of information.
When did Jim start doing fantasy? When did Jim start doing fantasy?
I started an analyst job in 2007. I've been playing since 94. So a little bit of experience.
Yeah, we both do. And, I did a lot of work with we went before, like, give you an example, before ESPN was fantasy, we were building fantasy websites, doing cheat sheets and accumulating mailing lists. We were cheating the spiders back then. We put the keywords in behind the borders and cover them up, and then so we made a little, and then we'd sell it. We'd just sell the list, and Matt Berry was with me. We were doing stuff with Matt Berry and those guys. So that gives you an idea how far back I go too.
Yeah,
go back to the mailing lists where we did fantasy by mail. Yeah.
Huh?
So fun.
That's a thing. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And
right.
I mean, obviously Tony remembers when you did fantasy, you were checking the scores in a newspaper. You didn't have internet. Everything is pen, paper, fax machine, right?
1-800 line.
Yeah, 1-800 line, and people calling in their lineups and leaving them on your voice. No, not your voicemail, your recorder.
Yes.
How do you keep up with the scores? How do you keep up with everything?
Well, you could. There were stations where you could get scores, but they were far from updated. And for the most part, it was when we were gaming too. When we were investing. We were on that 1-800 line all the time, and it was much more vanilla, than it is now. We didn't worry about first half scores or certainly not live betting and those things. But we've come a long way. We've come a long way since they outlawed Quaaludes.
But Tony, I love betting live in game. I love it.
Well,
Can't wait for the NBA to start up again.
Oh, well, me either. But I'm just saying, dating ourselves, live betting was the same. It was like the dream of landing a man on the moon. So,
well, speaking of Quaaludes, Tony, I'm becoming increasingly higher and higher on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh,
and I'm asking Jim.
I imagine you're not sharing the Quaaludes with me, because if you're getting that high on the Eagles, so.
I guess they must have. I sent them through the U.S. Postal Service. I guess they must have scarfed them up.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Seriously, I asked Jim where he would. I want to take Jalen Hurts. I don't know if I want him to be my number one quarterback on my team or number two, but I did do pizza money, Tony, at 40-1 for the MVP.
The division MVP or the league MVP?
The league MVP. I don't mess around.
Okay. Obviously, that was a sleep sarcasm or a sleep. I'm still I stayed up late last night. We're here. We have a little party going on here in Vegas, as you well know.
Yeah. So, I'm missing it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look pretty good for being up all night.
That's because I don't smoke.
Explains why there's nobody in the casino too.
Damn it, I don't cuss, and certainly I don't drink, so I look young.
That's not what your parole officer told me.
Well, you see, I'm glad that you do communicate with him, because if you knew I was with other fantasy felons, I would probably be in trouble.
All right, Jim, tell me where I should take Jalen Hurts, because I want him on my team.
So you're not going to likely get him outside the top 8 quarterbacks. He's going to go in that top 8 range. I actually have him ranked as my number 4 fantasy football quarterback, because he runs. That running ability always puts you into a different stratosphere. And the one thing that's beautiful is they have an outstanding offensive line. And what they figured out last year is especially the weak side linebacker will freeze when you have a mobile quarterback, and it allows running lanes. So their running game works with the running backs and with Hurts, but they bring in Antonio Brown. And We know that Hurts did not throw the ball over the middle of the field a lot last year, but the reason I believe that was the case was because they didn't really have middle of the field people. Dallas Goedert was frequently lined up as a single receiver where they had trip receiver on the opposite side. So Goedert was used as an outside weapon. But A.J. Brown brings in an outstanding element on the slant crosser game. And I think Jalen Hurts will be very proficient at that throw. It sounds like early in camp, he's had only eyes for him. And you mentioned about an MVP bet. Well, the first thing to win an MVP is you have to win your division. And I see the NFC East as a very winnable division. Dallas lost a good amount of talent. The rest of the people on the line, especially Tyron Smith, are still aging. This is a winnable division. And once you get into that situation, you are in the MVP discussion. Now, as to how far they go, it depends how much they pass. This still could be a team that goes 50-50 run pass. So that could be a diminishing factor. But if they win enough games, Hurts is squarely in the discussion because of that division.
I love it. I'm more bullish on them now than I ever was. What do you think, Jordan?
I don't know about Hurts for MVP. I can never do the MVP, man. I can't do player futures. I'm on the team.
Well, me neither.
I have some teams who I'm like, how in the world are they going to win this many games? But I don't know about the players. If you don't mind, though, I would like to ask about a couple of these teams. Like, for example, Bucks 11.5, right? I know they're going to be a great team. Their division's not the best. I know they added the extra game. We're getting reports that we don't even know how interested Tom Brady is. You think if that team's not a Super Bowl contender in the second half, he's even going to finish the season? Like, I'm seeing 11.5, and like, I think that's absolute insanity. Am I just trying to steal a line here, or am I right?
Well, I think the concern is the interior line is starting to crumble.
No centers.
Right? They lost their center, and they have not signed J.C. Tretter. He's still like a top 10 center who doesn't have a team. I was stunned they didn't sign him. And then they lost their backup. And now Wirf's got a little bit of an injury. They have an injury to a guard already who was a backup. So Brady, we know this. Brady is hypersensitive to interior pressure. The Bucs built a very good interior line. If that line isn't there, that's problematic. And Chris Godwin, we're not quite sure remember, the ACL coming back from. He is a high-cut player. He is the one who has to run those sharp, in-breaking cuts. Agility is his calling card. If the ACL isn't back from that, that's a big element to Brady's game, is having that slot receiver. So there are concerns here. I would tend to bet the under because it seems there's too many negative factors coming together. And they also have some questions on their defensive line. Look, Ndamukong Suh was aging, and JPP was aging. They're gone. They lost some veteran leadership there. So there are some questions.
Tony Finn, what do you think?
Well, I would think the first thing that when it would come to fantasy, at least in the environment and the backdrop that we currently reside in, participate in, compete in, should I say, it's already been mentioned, and that is what is going to be the shift for him to be an MVP. There has to be some shift in running plays to passing plays. I really believe in a league right now where the quarterback is more valuable than some of the things in my medicine cabinet. They're just pretty darn valuable. And they ran the ball, 53% of the time last year, 52-7. I don't remember. Yeah. I'm not great with numbers like that, but 53%. And I think for them to be, I think they had a total of 6,300 yards too. The Phillies did, the Eagles did. And I think to be to be considered an elite offense, or at least a top tier offense, 7,000 yards is minimum. It's minimum what you have to have. So there has to be an improvement offensively, and that improvement would have to be through the air. I think. I don't think there's any doubts that this team would be fine committed to the run, right? But Jalen has to. That's my question. What's the offensive game plan for Philly? It's really, I have a lot of ideas for Philly, and I think maybe more importantly, if you're a fantasy guy and you like Jalen Hurts to be MVP, then you seriously have to look at like Kenneth Gainwell. You have to look at some of the guys that are surrounding him they'll be basically ghosts come draft day. And those are the guys I'd be looking to get late in the rounds. I mean, Gainwell was not only Gainwell, but I think Boston Scott's probably gone with the new additions, but not gone. But you might be able to find him on the waiver wire most days. But Devontae Smith had pretty good reason. I mean, he lined up as their number one an awful lot last year. In fact, more than anybody, I believe. I'm not a Philly fan, but being in this business, we all do what we can to understand a team, know what a team's capable of, and project moving forward. So that would be. I think these guys already mentioned it. Schedule's going to be fairly reasonable. It's not like they're going to be playing. They're not going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, et cetera, every week. In fact, I think if they were playing those two every week, fantasy-wise, you'd probably be in great shape because the ball's going to have to be thrown up and down the field. So, right?
Yep.
MVP is a stretch. MVP is a stretch for Hurts probably. It would have to be a absolute shocking season, in my opinion. Philly would have to not only win that division, his QBR would have to be pretty good. Some of the players around him would have to have career years, right? And then you would see Jalen Hurts saying, people, here we are in December, right? Maybe we're doing a Christmas show and we're saying, man, he's in the conversation. That would be a surprise to me, John, to be honest with you.
And to be honest, it would be with me. And my strategy is to get something really cheap at 40-1 and then hope they go 4-1 or 5-0.
Sell it off.
And then buy it back.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's, listen, I'm,
or at least sell off half of it.
They call me the hedgehog. I'm all about hedging. If I can hedge, I've done it. I'll do it every time and do it when people say, no, it's a winner. I'd say, well, it's a winner right now if I hedge it.
It's one of those Steve Merrill quotes, bird in the hand is worth more than six in the bush or something. I forget what that is. I never quite understood that saying. Like, why would you want to have
he didn't have a knife in his hand. He didn't have a knife in his hand, so I wasn't very concerned about Steve.
Yeah, he says, for you guys, I worked on Wall Street, so he has all these financial phrases. You don't catch a falling knife. As it pertains to, I guess it pertained to Bitcoin at the time.
Yeah.
I think Peloton referred to as the knife has already fallen, Steve. You can't catch it. Anyway, kind of like the Yankees. But let's move on to a Sunday game. I'm off to I was 67% last year in the preseason, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
I do the preseason differently than the regular season. I do preseason football exactly like I do hockey. I don't know any of the names. I don't care what the names are. I don't care what the goalie's name is. Give me the numbers. And it works for hockey and it works for NFL. So if the Patriots are playing their starters tonight, it actually makes me contrarian. I'll look at the other team.
I like I'm famous for mispronouncing names, and people make fun of me. And I tell them, I said, well, listen, you spend time on being enunciating everything properly. I'll worry about who's going to win, lose, and who's going to gain the yards.
You know who knows how to pronounce all the names is broadcasters, and we're not making that whale money. So you got the numbers. That's what matters.
I did my first radio show. It would have been 1991 or 92. Okay. And I was doing just a simple gig. DRF was involved, et cetera, et cetera. But they had called me and said, Tony, we need a replacement for the NHL program. And I said, no, you don't want me doing the NHL program. And they said, we got to have a hot body, cold body, warm body. We don't care. I said, listen, for 5 years thought that Rob Roy played for the Montreal Canadiens until someone said, who the hell's Rob Roy? I said, Patrick Roy. So there was no way you were going to get me to get on there and pronounce all those Slavic. Just forget it. And I'm Slavic pretty much. So, pardon me. The names, forget it. Hockey. So since that night I did that show, guys, I don't ever remember being asked to do another hockey show. And I don't live, and you guys, I don't live in the great Northwest or Northeast. I mean, like some where hockey is it's a winter afternoon on somewhere where the low part of the lying areas they fill with water and it's frozen over, and we're out there skating around and throwing the puck around. We just didn't do that for so. That's my excuse.
When I'm on a hockey show, I just say, that guy, he's the left winger for the, and then they say it for me.
Well, yeah, or
right?
The guy with the bum wing.
Yeah,
he's
the guy that was hurt twice this year.
Left winged.
Yeah, the one that kills me though, and he's having a wonderful year in Major League Baseball, and he's one of your favorite pitchers, and he's probably my favorite, is Sandy Alcantara, who is now Alcantara. When was the email sent out for that one, and when did I miss it?
You're talking to the wrong guy, because if they sent it, I just ignored it. I don't care. I just call him Sandy on shows. Sandy.
Well,
everybody knows who Sandy is.
Yeah.
If they don't, then, then they need to watch another show.
I was on the Washington Nationals last night, Tony, and I'm not lying because it was a video on Twitter, and you can see why I did it. But I have to admit, early in the show we were talking about it, and I had to pinch myself. Though I was going to text you and say, "Did Washington really win?" But they did.
They did win. I'm on the way to. I was in between joints last night, between Westgate and Circa, and I saw the score was 1-0. I think it was 1-0. That's 1-0. And I, at that point in time, you have a feeling they're in it. Listen, I did my Dead Presidents report the week before that, John, and I had like 4 or 5 positions in the game when the Cubs were playing the Nats. And statistically, if you're a stat girl or a numbers freak, as pedestrian as the Cubs are, they're still head and shoulders above the Nats and bullpen, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm playing a lot of alternate lines, a lot of -2s, -3s with the Cubs, and I have a 5-0 lead. I got a 6-1 lead, and the Cubs bullpen let me down several times, and the Nats hit the ball. Some of the guys at the bottom of the lineup hit the ball that I normally would have, already been asleep thinking it's a winner. So yeah, this is the time of the year, isn't it, guys? It's that time of the year that things happen that we don't project to happen, we don't expect to happen, and especially we don't like to see happen when Washington or the Cubs are our favorite team tonight, because we all know that my favorite team is a team I have fantasy players or money on, and that changes every 10 minutes.
Well, here's my free pick for the show, and then we'll call it a wrap. And of course, it's the Eagles. And these betting systems are simple to follow. You bet on road teams. The road team is priced between the threes, which means it's either a 3-point favorite or a 3-point underdog. And your road team has forced 1 or 0 turnovers in their previous preseason game. 37-17, 69% against the spread last 5 seasons. It says to take the Eagles over the Browns. And it doesn't matter who starts for the Browns, and it doesn't matter who starts for the Eagles. It's all numbers for the preseason. And as long as I'm hitting in the 60s, Tony, I'm going to continue to work that. Period.
Well, no argument for me on that, without question. I mean, if you're in the preseason, you see a favorite of 6 points or more. They're pretty good. They're really a good percentage. I think they're about 78 or 79% to win.
Yep.
However, it's only happened, I think, 8 times in the last decade, and they're 8 times, and they're 1-7 against the number. They win 80% of the time, but they're 1-7 against the number. Teams that are 3.5 points, between 3.5, 6, or win more than they lose. Teams that are +1, +2 in preseason win more than they lose. So if you're a trend player, blindly playing trends, then that's absolutely you're in the right spot. If they're -3.5 is a huge signal to me. If not only if they open, if the odds makers open it at that, it's first thing I do is look at that team. It's the first thing I do. I may not agree, and I may not be on it, but yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So Patriots are up to 5.5, 6.
Yeah.
So
the team that
your
opened,
info there is telling us to go Patriots.
Yeah, let me tell you, they
1-point dogs, right?
They opened as 1-point dogs at several of the local books here. Yeah, that's and in preseason, it doesn't take Donald Trump money or Monopoly money to move a number in preseason like that, but not like in regular season. But that's a big move, John.
Well, before I let you guys go, we'll go around the horn here. We'll start with Jordan, then Jim, and just whatever final thoughts you have. Tell us what's going over at the Cuse. Tell us what's going on at rotowire.com. And Tony, you can tell us what's going on over at the liquor store.
Yes. Now there's where you take my advice.
Yeah. What do we, dude? Football starting up soon. You mentioned 3.5. You love that line. Well, hey, Louisville opened up as a 3.5-point favorite over Syracuse. You can't legally bet college sports here in Syracuse. But here's what I'll say, man. We all know what that 3.5 means. They want everyone in Syracuse to jump on that. Oh, they can cover 3. They have a great defense. So you're just making me more scared for football season. But yeah, man, QSportsTalk.com, Syracuse sports, football coming up. ACC, I know, John, you'll have some angles. So, that's what we're doing. And I'm just trying to find some winners tonight. I'm very tempted to take the Royals. Singer on the mound, he's been okay. It's a weird line. Tampa Bay at home is barely minus 200, under 6.5. So that's probably what I'll be sweating tonight. See if the Royals can be our bad winner of the day.
Awesome.
I love that.
I do too.
Yes. Well, I'll be involved at the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Channel tomorrow and Sunday, 1 to 3 Eastern. So I'll be on there. If you have XM, love if you listen. Otherwise, at RotoWire, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I write our daily training camp reports, and I also do a video component. Those are all outside the paywall, so you get those for free. What I do is I break down the news and notes of the day, give a fantasy football take on that. The video is a little bit easier to follow if you like video. You want it shorter, you can read it. That's pretty much what's going on at RotoWire right now.
Awesome stuff, Jim.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tony Finn.
I got up a little late, so I'm not quite prepared, but I'm going to take a 2 here, and let's go ahead to make a couple pennies, couple nickels, maybe fading the Yankees. Gosman hasn't been spectacular, guys. He's had his moments. He's had his 15-minute moments. 3.16 ERA, really much better FIP. Talking to these fantasy guys, right? Much better FIP, 2.08, 372 with balls hit and play is a little bit high, 75% strand rate, et cetera. He has a spectacular strikeout rate. And again, he's had a few duds, but I'm going to fade Talion and the Yankees and go with the Blue Jays team. Talion. Again, let's just call him
the pitcher on the Yankees tonight.
Shout out
Mr. T. Mr. T.
Yes. Pity the fool.
Pity the fool with the Yankees money line tonight.
His last 5 starts, guys, 12. He's had 12 of his 24 walks, 24 season walks. And some of that has to be fatigue. Italian's not a guy that's traditionally a large inning or a lot of innings per season guy. And when he came over here, that was one of the concerns, or one over here, I should say, over to the good guys, the Yankee side. That was one of the concerns. So as long as Toronto's, squaring the ball up tonight, being a little more patient at the plate, I certainly like them. And if you look at the number, guys, I think the number should surprise us a little bit, shouldn't it? Jays, yep. At least they were a small favorite this morning. So give me the Jays tonight, minus over the.
Yeah, it's an easy bet. You're going up against the worst team in baseball over the last 17 games.
That's right. Yeah. Don't say it too loudly. You might have somebody surrounded in the studio.
Well, somebody's got to motivate the Yankees to start playing hard, I guess.
No, they don't. We're faded.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that.
Alternate line Blue Jays plus 150 right now. Sounds good to me.
I like that a lot.
Major League Baseball video I do, I intentionally look for Red Sox angles every day. And if I could do one every day, I would.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for your time,
how's the
guys.
weather? How's the weather? Before you kill us out, how's the weather there at the stadium?
Looks clear overhead.
Yeah, it's hot.
Is it?
It's like 90 degrees. It's not as hot as where you are. But we went through a hot spell. It was in the hundreds there for,
we haven't seen
5 days in a row.
100 in 15 minutes, man. So
Well, you're supposed to be in 100 where you live.
Well, here's the deal. We're gonna wake up. I'm gonna wake up. We've had more rain in the last 2 weeks here than we've had in the last 20 years almost.
And we haven't had a drop.
Wow. And so I told my wife that I said we're going to wake up and we're going to have to move. We got to move because we're no longer going to be the Mojave. We're going to be they're going to rename it after a rainforest. It's ridiculous,
man.
Well, there's one good thing though. Lake Mead is revealing all kinds of new murder cases for people to solve with those bodies being found in the barrels.
Oh yeah.
Now, how in the world did that go undetected?
Well, you don't think we know there's still more? There's more. Just keep digging. Well, there's more.
If I could get the circuit to give me a bet that one of them is going to be Jimmy Hoffa, I would take it.
He's in the Renaissance concrete. He's in the concrete of the Renaissance Center.
Oh, wherever he's at.
I have that on good authority. The National Enquirer.
Well, anyway, you can tell that we're having a lot of fun, and again, thank you for your time, guys. You got to meet the great Tony Finn, one of my good friends and pals in the industry. And my two new buddies, Jordan Capozzi, Jim Coventry. Thank you again for your time. And I always end the shows the same way, Tony. You got to remember two things, especially over the weekend, because you won't see me again till Monday to remind you that you have to bet with your heads, not over it. And as a result, may all the wins be yours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.